Howdy hey, Strength of a Dragon here. I've been playing amateur comp for about 3 years, and I'm looking to share some of the lessons I've learned watching various people enter into comp for the first time, and what would most benefit you. So a lot of what I'll be doing today is comparing ranked to competitive Smite, and the reason for this is ranked is the most competitive queuable game mode in Smite. As I'm making this video, you're only allowed to queue with one other person, and they've got to be ranked close to you. Comp Smite is played as a full team of 5 players, and the rules are the same ones the Smite Pro League uses, except that leagues tend to be clustered roughly by skill level. There are many formats for comp leagues, but in my opinion, the best one's going to be a regular season, followed by a playoffs, and having the teams clustered into divisions based off of level of play. This format can be done either by requiring teams to show up with a full roster beforehand, or by having people sign up to be entered into a draft format, where captains pick their teams. For those of you who are looking to get into competitive Smite, I'm going to go ahead and include some links down below to the various discords that leagues use, where you can look for a team or join into a draft. Personally, I feel that comp is simply the most fun way to play Smite. You don't have to have desires of becoming a pro in order to enjoy getting better at the game, and you don't have to want to get better at the game to enjoy playing with 4 of your friends. However, I have found when you are looking to get better at Smite, competitive and ranked are going to cycle back and forth for which one is going to make you better at the game. And this cycle just starts with comp for pretty much everybody. Comp offers a stability that allows you to pick a manageable subset of skills that you want to work on, whereas ranked offers you a massive variety. And after you have developed a foundational set of skills for your current skill level, this will make your skill set more robust. That being said, the other thing that ranked offers that comp does not is it is much easier to queue ranked than it is to get 10 people to all show up to the same place at the same time. Because of this, you're able to play many more ranked games than you will comp games, which does have some benefit and some downsides. The benefit is you play more games. The downside is you're less likely to put in the time to review your games when they're a ranked game versus a comp game. And reviewing comp games is where your growth really starts to come in. Depending on your current skill level at Smite, certain skills on the battleground are going to differ between ranked and comp. The first noticeable one is going to be that teamfights can play differently between ranked and comp, especially in plat and low masters. So there's potential for the intuition built from ranked to just not fit in comp, and vice versa. Intuition from comp can also fail to apply to ranked, though this second version's a little less common and a lot easier to spot and resolve. I found this is most notable with junglers looking for windows of opportunity in a teamfight, but it also applies to potentially any role. The next things that are going to be most different between comp and ranked are snowball and stall potential. 5 players being coordinated on their intent to speed up or slow down a game is going to be much more drastic than what you'll see in ranked for speeding up or slowing down a game. A subset of how this happens has to do with punctuality. And unfortunately, I'm not talking about showing up to scrims on time. I'm talking about being on time for things like buffs and objectives. In competitive Smite, because you have to communicate a game plan with a teammate explicitly, you start to think further out in the game at lower skill levels than you would for ranked. So having your jungler on time to defend a camp or to invade a camp is a much tighter window as you progress in competitive Smite. Paired with this is the idea of laning with intent. Laning with intent says I'm thinking beyond just beat up my lane opponent and thinking towards perhaps the next buff invade that I want to get off, which means 3 minutes from now, I know I want to invade a buff because I feel I'm stronger at the moment, and because of this, I'm going to trade resources with my opponent and take little advantages here and there that are hopefully going to snowball to the point where we have an advantage that allows us to take a 2-on-2 and invade an enemy buff. This starts to show up in comp games much earlier on than in ranked, and while the skill set does benefit ranked, it's not necessarily one that you'll know to develop until you've started working through explicit communication with your teammates. So while there are skills that differ on the battleground between ranked and comp for that particular skill level, there are skills that are pretty much exclusively useful in comp. The most obvious of which is comms. It turns out playing and talking isn't as easy as it sounds. I'd easily make a full video just on what I've learned about comms, but for right now, to keep this video from being forever long, I'm just gonna say, expect comms to be a skill that you have to work at in order to be good at. Outside of comms, there are other skills like drafting and team-wide game plan creation that you just don't feel a need to develop in ranked, and honestly, most people don't even have to develop in comp, but if you're going to develop it, comp is going to be the place. Drafting in ranked may play a little bit of a role on the success of a game, but it is a much smaller role than the skill level of the 5 people on each side. However, in comp, as games become closer in skill level and more competitive, the importance of getting your draft just right increases dramatically. Typically, you'll find 1 or 2 people on a team are the ones who really drive the drafting phase forward. However, they do lean on all of their teammates to weigh in as appropriate, so it is something that everyone develops to some level. As for team-wide game plan creation, also known as shot calling, it's something that takes on a different level of depth in competitive than it would in ranked. In ranked, you still have macro decision making and shot calling that you do via VGS. However, in comp, the specificity of a game plan and the level of coordination that can happen for a team's game plan goes up dramatically, and as such, you can have a far greater impact through just shot calling in comp than you can in Smite, and it is a skill set some people choose to pick up and others prefer to sort of sit back and let someone else come up with the team-wide game plan. Next up is going to be the most interesting and controversial section of this, which is levels of skill, where they can improve, and how they differ between ranked and comp. So at the bronze level, a bronze comp player and a bronze ranked player are going to be pretty much the same. They both still have a lot of work to do on their fundamentals and probably a bit of stuff to learn just in book knowledge on what certain god kits do and things like that. At the gold level, you're still looking at a gold ranked player and a gold comp player being pretty similar. The fundamentals are at the point where they're understood for the most part, but actually doing what you know to be correct isn't necessarily easy when there's 100 things to do a game. At the plat level is where I start to see a real potential difference between a plat comp player and a plat ranked player. The individual skill set is one where they need to improve starts to become more specific, and as such, I can't provide any general guidance here. This could be working on your rotations, working on your god matchups in lane, working on your team fighting, whatever it may be. Plat is also around the level where I would really start to potentially put an emphasis in comp on some of these comp specific skill sets. Things like comms and how to do them effectively isn't something I'm necessarily going to focus on at the bronze and gold level, but at the plat level is where it starts to be more impactful. Now in diamond and low masters, which I'm clustering these two together because realistically the MMRs are about the same, I find the highest potential difference between a person with this rank and a person at this level in comp, especially for folks first getting into comp. At this point, the minimum expectation for skills like comms and coordinating with teammates on game plans that might be as far as 3 to 5 minutes out are at a point where you can have a noticeable absence despite being at that level in rank. This level of play is also where I find the greatest potential for folks to have developed what I call bad habits on how the game gets played, and this is for things like what you can get away with on the map and what you can get away with in team fights that may not be punished very often in a ranked setting, but what you definitely cannot get away with in a comp setting. This is where I have found, typically with junglers, but this can happen with any role, the highest potential for folks to come in with a big ego and quickly be humbled. And for some folks, this is insurmountable. They cannot sort of swallow their pride enough to say, all right, I may be a Masters player, but I should probably be on a plat team while I'm developing my comp skill set. So this is my biggest warning, danger, Will Robinson category, but there is no guarantees here that that is where you're at. Folks at this level who've been playing comp for a while fully expect this to be a possibility, and so simply saying where you are in ranked, people will adjust appropriately. I think that there's a lot of great potential for folks at this level, and I really hope that I haven't turned any of you off from playing comp, but there's a lot to learn, and as you get higher into the ranked levels, the amount of skills you need to perform at that level in a comp environment grows as well. Now, High Masters, I unfortunately will have to tell you for sure when I get there. I have not been there personally, but I can give you my best understanding from what I have seen. And from what I have seen, play on field from the highest of Masters lobbies is roughly the same between a comp player and a ranked player. There is still that potential for skill sets outside of ranked to be missing for a person at this level, things like comms and drafting and team-wide game plan creation. However, the skill sets on field for what you can get away with, what does it mean to punish someone for something, and things like that, tends to transfer pretty directly. As well as it's pretty common to find folks who understand that planning 3 to 5 minutes out is relatively common. Now, they may not be explicitly communicating this, but it is something that they are relatively comfortable doing. As for comp amongst players in High Masters, this is the area where an individual's skill set stops being as important for the success of the team. By this I mean the sum of the 5 players is more important than who those 5 are, if that makes any sense. The way that the 5 players cover each other's weaknesses and complement each other's strengths plays a much bigger role in their success in a comp environment, and is really what I find differentiates a low SCC team and a Worlds winning SPL team. Many of the individuals are going to have play on field that is comparable, but their coordination amongst their team is really what becomes king. Each of the things I've mentioned that differentiates players tends to be true at any level of the game. You can have a team of 5 bronze players who just work so well together as a unit that they really outperform their individual level and can biff other teams. But realistically, their benefit's gonna come from just learning the fundamentals. And in theory, you can have 5 folks who are High Masters who are just at an individual level better than their counterpart on the other team, and because of that, they're just winning. But these tend to be the exception rather than the rule. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed, please like and subscribe. It really gives me an understanding of when I've made something you guys would like to see more of, and I look forward to seeing you guys later. Catch you on the flip side.